Hi guys, hello and good morning. It is Friday the 30th of June. Hi Luke, thank you for getting in touch. My name's Steve Pugh. I do various different podcasts and live streams on the internet. I actually run a startup amongst other things, and we are a social impact startup there to bring free business education to the world. Our mission is to really help empower and uplift communities around the world. That business education really kind of revolutionized my life. It gave me the ability to earn a lot more money, but also get career progression and actually just get really good at all of the different aspects of running a business, which include strategy, sales, management, marketing, leadership, finance, etc. And actually that stuff is often really hard to learn. It's also really expensive. So what we wanted to do is create a social impact startup where basically anyone, anywhere in the world can get in touch and get a free book. But also we have websites, we have apps, we have lots of different stuff. And the idea is that we are looking to make business education accessible to 5 billion people worldwide. And with over half of the world's population living off less than $5 a day, traditionally business education is really, really expensive. What I'm going to talk about today is all to do with AI and how actually it's my belief, which isn't always a good thing, but actually I do think that AI is going to revolutionize education in lots of different ways, which is what I'm going to talk about today. If you get involved in the comments, thank you, Luke, as well. It should pop up on the screen. I'll definitely kind of chat and interact if I can. And what I thought was quite interesting was that I went to an event, it was a talk 2 weeks ago now, which was all to do with how AI and tech can basically impact education. And what was interesting is that there's a rabbit hole that you can go down to see how that actually kind of plays out. And it was just something I wanted to talk about. But if you missed this live, you can catch up on YouTube as well. Just search for Roadmap MBA. And also to our friends and followers on TikTok that runs on a different stream. Hello as well. I'm actually trying to look different with a microphone to go to the same microphone to all the different channels, which I've never done before. I, as an engineer, always want to learn and improve and get better systems and procedures. So I'm trying something new today that hopefully if my sound sounds okay, it's working. If it doesn't, it's my fault. It is what it is. With it being Friday morning, I always love it if people get in touch. I'd love to know how your week's been, how's your month been actually, and now we're kind of halfway through the year. Just how's your general year kind of going? It was actually my 40th birthday on Wednesday last week, 21st of June. And actually it's funny because you then come to recap and rethink about how actually, your career, what you're doing, do you enjoy what you're doing? And I think one of the really important things that I've discovered, which to be honest, probably didn't discover until too long ago, is how important it is to actually find something that you really love to do. That I'm a chartered mechanical engineer. I love doing engineering and I love working with different companies to help them on that growth path. And I don't want to stop doing that. I love doing that. But for me, just having the social purpose and actually trying to do something to help and give back to other people, kind of gets me excited. It's the reason I hope that I'm here. And actually, when you kind of get to 40, which used to be your classic midlife crisis level, where you kind of decide what do you do? Do you take up golf or whatever? I'm actually quite happy. It is what it is. Life comes with challenges, and you all get different setbacks and that kind of thing. But I think my Boy Scout in me that I was in Cubs and Scouts growing up was that as long as you try your best and you see what happens, and you can honestly say, look, even if it didn't work out, I did the best I could. I'm happy with that, and that's almost the approach that I try and take. Hi Luke, you love AI. I'm focusing heavily on working in the education space to help schools. Okay, so this might be interesting. Genuinely, these are just some thoughts I had, and I'll jump into it in a second. But I would, appreciate your comments, and they'll come up and they'll get saved for prosperity on YouTube and stuff as well. So please kind of let me know your thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to grab my pen. So today I'm going to talk about AI in education. This comes from someone that I've spent a lot of time in school and universities. I have 3 master's degrees. I actually run an education technology startup, so I'm in this space. And actually what has been really fascinating is that when I was growing up and I went to school, I'm old enough now that we still had chalkboards and stuff growing up. And then when we went to university, most of it was still on a board. And actually they used to use something called acetate projectors, which was they write on a clear sheet of plastic that was projected onto the wall. No screens, no projectors. That we did evolve into that. But it's just fascinating that I think I'm on the cusp of different generations where now Fast forward, to university students now, you do a lot of stuff online. You have packs and videos and that kind of thing. And also with COVID, the way that people were taught changed. And in COVID, for me, my personal opinion was that, so I did mechanical engineering as an undergrad, and that was a very intensive course. So basically Monday to Friday, you were in pretty much 9 till 4 every day, half day on Wednesdays for sport, but we got a lot of value for our money. So back when I was old enough and fortunate enough, UK fees were about £1,500 per year. The rest was subsidised by the government. It later went to £9,000 a year, which I'll be honest, I could not have afforded growing up. And that's part of the reason for the accessibility elements of the roadmap. But even at £9,000 a year, the idea was that you actually get relatively a lot for your money, where you get all of the buildings, the test equipment, the interaction with staff, you get all of this stuff. I still disagree with that. I think that's too expensive. But regardless, you got stuff for your money. Fast forward into COVID, and I respect that there was a huge change in the world, that a lot of people went online, went on Zoom, and the whole industry changed. But students were still paying the same. And actually, I don't think genuinely that students in the past 4 or 5 years have had a good deal in terms of value for money for what they get in terms of support wise, and also especially for a course like engineering where it's very practical, you kind of need that. And due to this, the world is changing and education is changing in a lot of different ways. At the event I went to about 2 weeks ago, which was with the Innovation Super Network, they talked about how largely for, say, the past 200 years, education has largely been the same, and then it was just broadcast. So you would go to a room at various different ages, someone at the front would talk, and basically you would just absorb the information and then regurgitate it back on a test. And that's kind of been the same all the way through. With the roadmap, what we wanted to do was really kind of take it to the next level, so that actually, as well as having all of that, so we provide information, we do 4 live classroom sessions a week, plus the live streams like this. Hi from Thailand. Hi, Apicon. So that actually it's a two-way thing. So the whole point is that if you say, look, Steve, I love the topic on business strategy, but how do I understand this concept? How do I do this, etc., to really give you that feedback and support that you kind of really want and need. One of the big topics which has come through from AI, which is one of the big selling points, is actually people will be able to get, arguably with ChatGPT, you've kind of already got it, but it will just get better and better and better. You will have a personalized tutor where basically 24 hours a day, tailored to you, based on learning your habits, how you like to learn, what you're interested in. You will get perfection in terms of support in a way that could come via your smartphone or headset or whatever. That actually, it's my belief that there's a real chance that universities and schools won't actually exist in their current form in 10 to 15 years. That at the event, what was quite interesting is that people were talking about how teachers can use this to write lesson plans, and actually we can use it to support students, to help give them that bit of extra tutorage after school. But then you can just take that further, and actually, why can the tool not just write the lesson plan and teach it, and you don't need the interface? And that was just something that I wanted to talk about, and I've got various different topics I'm going to touch on today. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the notion of education. This is from my own personal point of view. And again, what's interesting is that you will have entities like universities and schools and colleges that will not like this train of thought, because it's major disruption. That if you are, our local university is called Newcastle University, it's got 6,000 staff and overheads of about £600 million every year. It's a lot of overhead. It's also a huge sunken cost, where actually, as the whole world is pivoting based on new technology, people aren't going to want to let go of that. That actually there will be resistance to new things that kind of come out. Due to that, they'll probably actually be quite slow to react. For myself with the roadmap, we always wanted to actually create something where essentially you can ask questions and you get that support. And one of the things that I've kind of come to realize, that's part of the reason for doing this talk, is that AI could also revolutionize and disrupt what I'm trying to do, but hopefully in a good way. Because for me, this isn't about making money, it's actually about making business education accessible and helping support people around the world build better careers and businesses. And if there's a better way to do that, that's fair enough, but it's still something that I wanted to kind of touch. So in terms of what is AI, so there are different definitions for what people class as artificial intelligence. Some people just use the term, but there's no actual real AI involved. It's just tools that we've had for years. But essentially what a lot of people talk about now with ChatGPT, etc., they're called large language models, where essentially they just predict the next word. It's a big algorithm that basically takes inputs and figures out what's the best thing to give back to you. It's essentially software, and there's a lot of debates about what is the bias in the software? Is there bias in the results it gives you? And from a lot of the talks and people I've kind of seen speak on the topic, essentially it's a computer program that will be programmed to do whatever you wish or want it to do from the viewpoint that you want it to do it from. And one of the interesting topics that came out in the talk is that fast forward 20 years, rather than we all buy into a monthly subscription for a standard AI, there's a very real chance that you'll actually get to custom and tailor your own AI, like Jarvis in Iron Man, to act how you want it to act, to take a certain element of risk, but almost it will be that personal support that at the moment is still fairly generalized, we tap into to test. But actually it will be, the Siri on your phone or Alexa or whichever, but it's a tool which could be tailored exactly to you, your preferences, your likes, what you dislike, your political views, etc. And basically that's what it is. So it's software that will give the impression that it thinks for itself. One day it might, but I think that's a bit of a stretch for today. But essentially that is what is AI. It's very clever software that learns all the internet, all of the information on the internet that you can then tap into through various different mechanisms, voice, video, images. So basically use it as a tool to help you kind of move forward. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how this for me dawns the end of an era. It's a completely new topic that until now, I'll say until January because that's when ChatGPT kind of really launched, you were able as an entity to charge for information. So if you paid 50, 60,000 pounds to go to university, essentially what you were doing, and you were paying for access to knowledge, support, learning and information. If you do most business courses, some of them are mega expensive, but say £2,000, ours, that some of the paid tiers are £300. Essentially, you're paying for information that you get the book, you get the support, but actually for a long time, for hundreds, if not thousands of years, knowledge was always held behind a paywall. So this could be Skillshare, it could be anything you can imagine, but essentially the knowledge is there, and only not just the rich people, but unless you had the money to pay, you couldn't access that information. It's my belief that with AI, the era of charging for information has just gone. In 6 months now since it launched, you can put into ChatGPT or whichever is your AI of choice, how do I write a business plan? And it'll give you a result. If you want more detail, you ask it. If you want to reference sources, but the point is you can say, my business is a cupcake business. We are struggling to reach customers. How can I improve this? And it'll give you an answer. And then it might say, well, actually, have you considered paid ads, this, and this? And you might say, well, actually, we have done paid ads, but they didn't really work. Can you look at the code we used or the graphics we used to figure out, actually, could we do this better? But the point is, you have a tool, which is pretty much free. I'm sure they'll start to charge at some point. But it will go out and source the best information around the world and give you that support in a way that a university can't do that. A university and education as a whole is built on a standard curriculum. It's a default program which they just give to people, which was designed in the industrial age to almost get people to conform, to get a base level of skills in art, religious education, maths, science, English, etc. But it was a standard set of education that you basically just had to gobble up. Now that's all kind of going to change, but actually for businesses, including my own, the era of AI is going to revolutionize the ability, or actually, I don't think you're going to be able to charge for information anymore unless it's mega super customized, because people will be able to get it better, faster, quicker elsewhere. And I just think it's a fundamental change that I wanted to kind of talk about, because this affects me, it affects my decision making and what we kind of do as well. I'm just reading, AI is extremely limited and it's incredibly dangerous. Okay. And sorry, I have to both present to the camera and then read the comments. But you are completely correct. AI has a huge number of flaws. A lot of the information it does is wrong. But it's that element of, if you rewind back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago, to also fast forward to where we might be in 10, 15 years, it's scary to think how good and how quick these things are improving. But you are completely correct that it does have a lot of issues. One of the other big ones I have is inequality. Because in the same way that I said before about how education was often held behind expensive paywalls, especially business education, basically AI could do the same, that either if it becomes a paid tool where, again, only the mega rich can afford it. Likewise, if you link this with Elon Musk's Neuralink, where people could have a chip in their head to interact with this stuff instantly as part of their built-in system, they essentially will have an incredible advantage over people that don't have that. But also, this is often viewed as people from the West. One of the issues that we have, and we found at the roadmap, is that we have users in 56 different countries. If you go to somewhere like Kenya, Kenya does not have the internet penetration or speeds that we have here in the UK. They might use WhatsApp as a way to communicate because it's fairly low bandwidth, but they certainly couldn't watch a full HD live stream like this in large parts of the world. My point being that even if AI is free, it's not equal in all parts of the world because of things like internet penetration, that actually then what you would have is people in Western countries, China, etc., have a huge advantage over people in parts of the world that do not have equal access to good quality tech, internet bandwidth, etc. That I do worry that that could actually cause social unrest, because essentially it could exacerbate inequality between, either in the UK, rich kids who can afford the tutorage private schools, but also the extra AI support to help them grow, learn and develop, versus people from poorer backgrounds that just can't access that. So that's, expands that inequality. But also outside of Western nations, between nations themselves, it could be quite kind of interesting. But I appreciate, Fergal, the kind of comment and stuff as well. So in terms of what do I think will kind of change, so you're going to have various industries which actually I think will stay the same. They'll still get revolutionized, but I think they'll stay the same. So manufacturing. So my background is in engineering, so companies that make real physical stuff. We're still going to need that, and actually AI will help how we do that. But actually, it's not, AI is not a CNC machine that can make a car, if that makes sense. So manufacturing, I think, will still stay the same. Healthcare will still stay mega important. Again, it will get revolutionized, but as humans, we're still biological organisms that break, so we will still need doctors and pharmacies, etc. Travel is interesting because where we travel to will probably stay the same. So we will still want to go to the Maldives on a fantastic holiday, but actually how we get there could easily be a self-driving car or plane or whichever. But actually what's interesting when you look at all of these different angles, I do think that, there's going to be more change in the next 10, 20 years than we've had in the last 3, 4, 500 years. And nobody knows what to do, but it's almost, I think it's worth kind of looking at. So what I'm going to do is move on to, but please kind of let me know in the comments if you have any particular views on different bits and bobs, or how do you think that AI could really impact education? So the first one. So if you look at personal support, and this could be anyone, anywhere in the world, any age, essentially you now have the ability to program and teach your AI your background, where you're from, what challenges you face, your age group, and actually what you're looking to do. So you could program to say, I'm a 40-year-old male, I have an engineering background, I run companies, and I operate in the edtech space. And therefore, the answers and the interaction you get are framed within that. So that if they know I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm an experienced business person, they can give me more detailed information, which will help me grow and learn quicker. But you could also have a child that's a 5-year-old that wants to learn basic maths, but they're interested in Nerf guns and Pokemon and Army. I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know. But the idea is the AI, the AI actually could help teach that 5-year-old in language that's perfect for them. It's accessible 24 hours a day. But even the arguments and the way it asks the questions can be tailored to that person's intelligence, but also their interests. So if they love Nerf guns, you could help teach geometry through how you shoot foam darts across a room to get the teacher. But the idea is good quality AI will be able to tailor concepts to help improve cognition and learning based on the individual. That same individual that could be interested in horse riding or basketball, you might use a different example that on a human level, teachers obviously only have so much capacity, but actually if you had the ability to customize the perfect education for every student, you could do that, and AI almost gives us the tool to do that. AI would also be incredibly patient. One of my biggest flaws is that I'm not the most patient person in the world. I certainly couldn't be a teacher. I respect people that do. It's just something that I couldn't do. But then likewise, if a student gets something wrong 10, 15, 20 times in a row and they just don't get it, it will help that child or person learn and develop if you have someone that's willing to help them every step of the way, and then likewise change the difficulty if they don't quite get it. It's that infinitely customizable tool, I think, is really important. But the big key point of actually AI is that from the event that I went to 2 weeks ago, everyone talked about how it can be used to facilitate education. So everything I've spoke about to help teachers write lesson plans, to help students learn themselves, etc. And what essentially, if you fast forward this through though, I just think it gets to the point where when you have schools or universities, I just don't think you're actually going to need them. And it's a big cultural issue, but I can see it happening that I think you would still have the same entity, and I still think there's massive need for social interaction, learning, group activities. But in terms of its traditional function just on pure education, I actually think that you don't need this anymore because of how good it's going to get. And it was just a debate and a topic that I wanted to kind of talk about. At 9:06, I'm probably going to call it kind of quits there. But I'd love to know for you, what do you think about AI? Do you think it's going to exacerbate inequality in the world? Do you think it will help more rich people? It will help people that have good internet connections? Or do you think it will not go that far and it will just be used as a tool to help facilitate learning, as like an extra clever internet thing that we use? Or do you think, like me, that these universities that have hundreds of millions of pounds worth of buildings and everything else, will we always need that in the way it's currently used? And if not, how not? And how would you change it? Like soccer education being the same in the world over provides a common language, AI should be complementary. I agree with you. It should be, and I hope it is. The reason why I wanted to do this as well is that, I've invested a lot of time and money into the live streams, the studio, the interaction, the whole business course, because actually I'm passionate about the topic. But I'm also cognizant enough that I know that a Google, a Facebook, whoever could come up with something that just does this 100 times better. You might not get the human interaction, which is something we're going to play on, and I genuinely appreciate the comments and stuff today. But I'm conscious about how this thing could revolutionize my business and start on what we do. And as a single sole person, I can't write code better than the big boys, OpenAI, DeepMind, that kind of thing. So my only route, I guess, is to look at partnerships. How can I work with different people to make it, take my business forward, keep its main ethos and ethics? But it's a really hot kind of topic. Hi, Clive. Schools and universities will never close. The curriculum may change. One could quickly get information, but that's not learning any. Okay, I'm with you. I agree with the concept, but the idea is that historically, it was always a tutor or a lecturer that has information, shares the information, then the students, people have the ability to ask questions and then maybe do a test and get the test marked. That in itself could get replaced. I'm not saying it will, I'm just saying it could. And that's why I thought it was a really interesting debate to have. But thank you for getting in touch. It's just the start of AI age. We'll just get better at machine learning. And I agree with you. And I think what's interesting is that if you've ever seen, there's a company called Synesthesia that they do advanced AI, I guess, deepfakes. But you can put in a script and the character in a lot of different languages will then talk about how basically it will say the script whatever you want, and it's incredibly realistic. I think you can still tell at the moment that it's not real, but I think it will get better and better and better. But what I think is quite interesting is that at the moment you give this thing a script, it goes away, it processes, and it comes back. Fast forward 5 years, this could happen where basically you interact, virtual Steve absorbs the comment, they can actually read it better than I can, but then actually reply back to you in the same way ChatGPT does in text, but actually is a human-esque interface. And I think that's the really interesting point, that I don't know how this is going to go. I do worry a little bit that you often see a lot of dystopian movies where you have the mega rich and the poor people, and the planet gets decimated and this huge divide between the two. I can kind of see that happening, that some people who figure this out will be able to work the stock market to huge advantage and come up with better products, better machines, better businesses, which is capitalism. But they will have a core advantage over people that don't have the technology. That I think it's that spread. And the worry is, do I think that at some point we already have drones and machines that can operate independently and kill people? They do have protections in place and protocols so that they don't always do what they're told if there's a real threat to life. I think there was an example recently. And will AI ever get to the point where it thinks that it's smarter than humans and humans are the weak link and actually they remove us altogether? I don't think it's ever going to get there. Certainly not in my lifetime. It's the whole Terminator thing, which was the element of the show. But this is all part of the debate. And I think the more people at least talk about this, the more we'll kind of wait and see what happens. But I do appreciate people's comments as well. The creativity, Steve Stephen Mitchell, I think this is really fascinating, because if you went back 2 years, people often thought that it was your repeatable jobs which could get replaced with AI. And when Midjourney and quite a few of the other tools came out, and these things are getting better quick, now you can actually put in prompts and get them to... My point is, actually, they're pretty good at creative with the right prompt. The question is, will it be able to iterate itself where it knows the task? Okay, now I'll put it this way. AI can execute tasks very well. So if you said to it, create me the world's best picture of a yellow duck, it could then go away and do it. I think in a few years' time that it'll be a masterpiece. Or even if you said, create a narrative to create a two-hour-long feature film which will win all the awards and be a very emotional story about the Holocaust, it wouldn't even surprise me if AI gets to the point where it can write what is technically a brilliant script, then animate it, do all the cinematography, do the graphics, create essentially what would be a Toy Story, Pixar level animation, export it. I can see that happening. What I think it wouldn't be able to do, but I could be wrong, is the initial idea, if that makes sense. So why would it think to create a picture of a yellow duck or to make a film? And I think that's where the human creativity kind of comes in. But at this point, nobody knows, is the honest answer. My hope is that it is used in positive ways, but also my concern in terms of creative especially is that there was a campaign by Levi's recently. And the way Levi's chose to spin it was actually to do with using AI. We're going to show you people of all different shapes and sizes and colors in our different clothes, and look how inclusive we are. So they tried to use it as positive. But in the process, because I used to be a photographer, they've stopped to employ photographers, models, the set, the studio hire, the catering, the lighting, the clothes manufacturers, because the clothes aren't actually getting made, they're just computer generated. And the point is, I can see how businesses are going to actually have huge efficiencies, that what you used to do with 100 people, you might be able to do with 10 people. Or if you're a creative studio, you might have needed 10 people in the past, but now it's only 2, because actually AI can do a lot of the rest. And the worry is what happens to society when the amount of jobs and things that we have just aren't needed anymore. Throw into the mix, actually, you got Elon Musk's, what do they call it? It's the Tesla bot, which is a humanoid robot, which at the moment I don't believe is smart. But combine the two, manual labor jobs, stuff that people don't want to do, stuff that's too dangerous. We're going to have 10 billion people on the planet, and we're going to start to see more people out of work because they're replaced with a cheaper option, which is probably better, doesn't get tired, doesn't need holidays, etc. And that's almost what worries me about some of the dystopian future, that we're going to have political unrest where essentially there could be mass unemployment, which then goes on to the argument about actually, do we need universal income, which I don't think it's ever going to work, because people are going to fight against it. The people who are generating the money are going to refuse to pay for it. But even if we did have universal income and everyone had as much food as they needed to eat, it's a classic human trait that people want to find meaning in their lives and actually do stuff. And I think you would still get civil unrest because of that. Genuinely, I appreciate everyone's comments and stuff saying my voice is starting to go. I haven't done one in a while. Hi, Stephen. That's my problem with AI. What took 100 people now takes 10. Exactly who benefits from AI. I agree with you. As someone that runs businesses, essentially it's your job to find efficiencies. Even the example this morning is that I'm now using one microphone to run multiple different things, as where last time I did this I used 2. But that iterative process, especially if you've got something very smart like a machine or AI figuring out how you can get efficiencies, the worry is it gets to the point where you have the business owner and then nobody else, and it's all automated, which could be a very profitable business, but at what cost? Because actually there's still a real value in human utility and community and, you know, local bakery shops and schools and that kind of thing, that I do worry about where this is all kind of going to go. At 9:16, I'm going to call it quits there. Genuinely, thank you for getting in touch. If I've missed anything, if you want me to cover anything in future topics or revisit stuff, or you think there's a link I should watch or miss or whatever, please kind of send it through. Genuinely, I'd be interested. This again wasn't from a point of just talking about an interesting topic, although hopefully it is interesting, but it's also because this is a real issue for me that actually I'm trying to figure out for the roadmap and the startup. How do we survive for the next 5, 10, 20 years? But also, how can we make sure that people around the world genuinely have access to the support and education and that kind of thing that they need in the best possible way, which is very equal access to help uplift people from different communities and backgrounds as well. So have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. I've got a fantastic interview on Monday, which I will talk about and I'll announce over the weekend. Have a great Friday. Thank you for your time once again. And if you want to check out Roadmap MBA, it's roadmapmba.com. We are a social impact startup trying to bring free business education and training to the world. So thank you for your time. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon. All right, cheers guys. Bye bye.